The Pro Style Production Network presentation of The Inside Look is brought to you by Clean Tech. Clean Tech, coming to the rescue since 1992. And now, The Inside Look. It's the Inside Look podcast presented by our friends at Clean Tech. Clean Tech, the home to COVID-19 deep cleaning services for your home or business. This proactive deep cleaning service includes disinfecting and sanitizing. Don't forget about Clean Tech's 24/7 disaster response and restoration services. Visit them online at cleantechllc.us. Clean Tech, coming to the rescue since 1992. A special guest on our show today, it's the athletic director of the Williston High School Coyotes. Mr. David Mieure joins us here today. And David, first of all, thanks for some time after a busy weekend in Williston. Thanks for joining us.
Nick, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to get you on, and I wanted to talk about the success of the WDA Girls Swim Championships. And PSP Network had the opportunity to be there to broadcast this event. And the main reason I wanted to bring you on is to discuss the ins and outs of how that went down in the way that it did. And with so many hoops and hills to climb, it just seemed overall that it was such a successful event at such a trying time, you know, in our schools and in society right now with everything going on with COVID. So first of all, let's start here. Your overall thought on how things went on Saturday afternoon with the Girls Swim and Dive Championships for the WDA.
Well, I was very pleased. Obviously, like you said, things are times are really tough right now. And we just wanted to be able to host an event for our kids, let alone host a great event for the conference, the WDA conference. And for us, as a meet manager, I was very pleased with everyone's efforts and being able to pull it off. And as an AD, selfishly and biasedly, I was very pleased as well because our girls were able to perform very well. So
that's the number one thing with all of this is that at the end of the day, the mission and the goal of everybody involved here was just the ability to allow the girls to have a swim meet and to be able to compete. That's something that they love to do. Touch on that just a little bit. Williston did have an excellent day, and obviously Century's the team to beat inside of swimming in Western North Dakota right now. But touch on the Coyotes just for a moment, your thoughts on how things went and qualifying some girls for the state meet.
Yeah, I mean, the Coyotes had a great day. Demi Peterson obviously was a WDA champion in the 100 fly, which was pretty cool for her. We had 3 girls, including one 7th grader, win all conference honors in Little Draper, which was amazing. I think we had 4 or 5 girls on the day qualify for state and are sending a bunch of kiddos to Bismarck this weekend. So it was, all in all, it was a great day. And, it's always fun to be able to do it in Williston. And thanks to PSP Network, be able to have loved ones at home still feel like they were joining us in the arena.
It was interesting to me, and some of the back end stuff that you didn't get to see on the webcast and on the broadcast. And the thing that I thought was the most interesting is how much you did and how much work was done from your staff, your volunteers, the community, the beautiful facility there in Williston. Touch on that and just the back end behind the scenes stuff. And if you can, just kind of paint the picture for us on the setup of how the team camps were set up over in the main gym there at the rec center.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, like you said, you don't see all the behind the scenes work that goes into it. And obviously it's a one-day event, but the planning and the amount of work that goes into it is so much more than that. And, between our volunteers, I mean, we had swim and dive parents, helping us get things set up with, tear down everything. We had the Sea Lion swim program, who's kind of like our feeder program. They were nice enough to step up and help us out. Heck, we even had some of our NHS students helping us with setup as well. And, going to your question to paint that picture, we had in the amazing facility over at the ARC, the Williston Area Recreation Center, they've got 4 basketball courts surrounded by an indoor track. And so we had taken 3 of those 4 courts, cut them in half at the midcourt line, and then set up 6 of the team camps there, which also had some bleacher seating and some bench seating. It also had different like a TV or even a monitor set up so that the girls could follow along, because they weren't going to be directly in the pool area to see all the events happen, but we wanted to stay on task and make sure that nobody missed their event or missed their race, so they could follow along with your network. And then we also had 2 other teams. We've got kind of they call it a team lounge area, for one school, and then we even had another school a little smaller in participation numbers that were in our racquetball courts. So it's, we were trying to space everybody out as best we could for social distancing and physical distancing purposes, as well as take as many precautions as possible. I mean, we dropped it down all the way to, if this team is next to this team in the team camps, then let's keep them next to each other in the same lanes, wow. For warm-up pools and everything else. And, we tried to think, okay, what is the best way to minimize the risk, minimize the spread as much as we could, because, in Williston, we don't get to host anything and everything. So when we do, we want to knock it out of the park. So, and, we even had stuff that I know very little about, but we went to our custodial staff and got the misters or the foggers, and had volunteers, cleaning the different locker room areas and making sure that we were disinfecting anything and everything, and there was the rule was, if you're not in the pool, that you got to be wearing your mask. And it's just that there's so much work, the event went so well and people were so gracious to me. And I wish that they could have been thanking all those volunteers and all those workers, because I definitely, I did very little. The amount of people that were willing to help us out, especially in the Williston community was just amazing.
Yeah, when you talk about hitting it out of the park, I mean, from my point of view and the conversation here now, I mean, that was a grand slam. That was a logistical nightmare, for lack of better words, on how to get everybody lined up the way you did. And like you're talking about, if they're set up next to each other on the basketball court where their camp is, then they're swimming with each other in the warm-up lanes and things like that. Did you feel like there was any misses? I want to keep it positive here, obviously, but A to an F rating, I mean, from the outside, it looked like an A+. Were there any hiccups with that and big things that arose during the event?
Well, I'm a tough judge, but it's always on things that I wish I would have done differently. But for the event as a whole, I mean, I would say it was an A, but it was all because of those volunteers, those workers, the people at the Arc were absolutely tremendous. Even the teams, just to see the girls being so upbeat and having fun with it. We were trying to do as much as we could. It was tough. We didn't get to have a podium or kind of award ceremony for the girls, which, they really deserve, but we were trying to at least get pictures of them with the championship kind of banner that we had. And I was sending them to their ADs to say, hey, we know you couldn't be here today, but, make sure your kids get credit that they deserve. And so, all in all, I thought the event went really well, but, hats off to all those people involved, and even like the donors and the sponsors that were able to make it all possible. I mean, it's funny because we weren't sure, how, if it was going to be a go or not. It was kind of every 24 hours, like, okay, let's see how things are tomorrow. Are we still planning on hosting? There was a little talk of maybe the site would get moved on us and then we'd get pushed back to next year. And so I was in nightly conversation with my head coach to say, okay, where are we at on this topic? Where are we at on this topic, to make sure that we kind of had our I's dotted and our T's crossed. And again, we couldn't have done it without those swim families and the swim community in Williston. So
fantastic stuff, David, across the board. Absolutely fantastic. And that the sponsor book that you talk about, I was happy to see what the Williston community was able to do for you and help out with an event like this, and just such a well done event from top to bottom with all of those special circumstances that made it such a challenge to get the job done. I mean, hats off, top to bottom, hats off to everybody involved, and including yourself, that I know had a monster part in this. And I can't imagine the planning and the strategy and all the conversations that went into it. Are you happy that it's over? Are you ready to move on to winter sports now, moving on after this?
Yeah, I'm happy it's over, but I'm more happy for the girls that they got to have a good day, and obviously for the Coyotes that we performed as well. But it's I just keep going back. It's crazy when you actually take a step back and think of all the people involved. I mean, the Williston Park and Recreation Department. I mean, they in order to try to help keep expenses down, they didn't even charge us for the facility because that's how much they care about kids. We had different vendors. Shirtworks, they were willing to help out with volunteer shirts, so then that way people could say like, hey, I don't know where to go, but at least they can see somebody in blue and say, hey, where do I go for this? Or just kind of make things smooth. And then obviously just our food options. We had a tremendous hospitality room thanks to my assistant Colby Simonson, but he set up Qdoba, Papa John's, Smiling Moose, and even contacted the Coca-Cola bottling company. And I think that's the coaches and the volunteers. I think that they really saw like, oh my goodness, they care about us. And we did, whether it's just one meal, 2 meals for them, and some drinks just to make sure that they were fed. Cause I don't know how the coaches do it. I would be a nervous wreck, with each passing event. So, we just wanted to give them a chance to take a little time off and refuel. So
absolutely. A big thanks again to Native Energy Solutions as well for helping out with the event and everyone that you named. I mean, fantastic top to bottom. Final thing for you I have here tonight as we move on and put a stamp on a job well done and more importantly, an event where girls got to do what they love to do and their passion, and many got to move on to a state meet now and qualify there. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this, I guess, moving forward, or any other thanks you'd like to give before we put a cap on an event well done?
Well, I mean, you hit it on the head. Native Solutions was a huge donor for us in making this possible to even have you guys, the PSP network, here doing what you do. And a big thanks to the Coyote Booster Club as well, because without them, we wouldn't have necessarily been able to have PSP in the house. And, we would have ended up kind of Facebook living it like some of the other events. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I mean, Nick, it's a huge thank you to you guys and what you guys do, because I've only heard tremendous things from the event, which is nice. Sometimes in the administration world, you always don't always get to hear all the positives, but you guys knocked it out of the park, and I think the girls really noticed that and appreciated that. So thank you for being there to make it happen with us.
Absolutely. All about promoting our young athletes. That's our mission. We look forward to it again, moving forward to the months to come here with high school basketball fast approaching in those winter sports. Have you heard on that topic as we switch gears here into the next season? As an athletic director and somebody that's got a good beat on this stuff in Western North Dakota, any thought or changes or conversation about what may be to come in the winter sports seasons coming with hockey, basketball, and the other winter sports coming up? Will we see major changes here in 2021?
So, one thing that we've noticed is obviously now having a fall season kind of under our belts and how we want to handle it with the winter stuff is for Williston, at least basketball, our event nights were always boys and girls varsity on the same evenings. Well, now they're going to still be on the same evenings, but if the boys are home, the girls are going to be away or vice versa. And that's in hopes to kind of not cross-contaminate our teams and our programs. And then obviously that would then affect wrestling on when they can be home and away. And, there's really not much non-conference action, unfortunately, going to take place. Now, girls hockey statewide is a little different because that's a different type of a conference schedule. And then, it's going to be real interesting. There's going to be more event nights, but not as many jamborees or invitationals and things like that. It's going to be mostly conference play to get her done.
High School Activities Association, of course, with all athletic directors, yourself included. Again, hats off to a job well done and a time where a lot of people have a lot to say about a lot of things, but you cannot go down a path anything other than with the Athletics Association and yourself and the athletic directors around the state that, man, you guys are really just busting your backs here to make sure we get to play. And at the end of the day, I'd have to assume that's the mission and the number one goal.
No doubt. I've talked to, the great part about being in the WDA is there's other ADs who've been doing this a lot longer than I have. And I've been kind of seeking guidance from them. And they're telling me, hey, David, right now this is uncharted territories. Everybody kind of feels like a first year AD all over again. And I just hope that the community understands how much, administration's going to bat for these kids to make anything work. And, with our new normal being so odd, but it's almost everywhere you look is lose, and we're trying to make the best of the situation. So, I appreciate everything that those other ADs and those other staffs are doing, but at the end of the day, we're taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time to do what's best for the kids and try to extend our season as long as possible.
Absolutely. David, we sure appreciate your time here on the Inside Look podcast. And again, fantastic job over there in Williston with the events last weekend and being a part of making high school sports continue, which we know is such a huge piece to everybody's lives that has any investment at all inside of this. And even if you don't, community-wise, without knowing it, you still do, being a part of a community in the high school sports and what that means. So again, thank you very much and fantastic working with you last weekend. I look forward to the future as well with more events coming up and more coyote matchups on the PSP network.
You bet, Nick. Thanks so much for being a part of it and being there for us. Appreciate you.